ready to go, Bruce?
I'm sick of turkey, though.
So is the chief in the hospital today?
We don't know if they kept him or not.
They did keep
Ready? Good evening. Today is Tuesday, November the 22nd. We're at the Civic Center for our regular workshop. Please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
Ms. Albrecht. Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Mr. Putnell.
Here. Okay, first item on the agenda tonight is the food truck ordinance that we pushed to this meeting to talk about it further. The issue was there was no provision in the ordinance that we're going to read of tonight for relocation of the two businesses that we had grandfathered in on this ordinance. The ordinance itself is not allowing food trucks in the future in Mexico Beach, and these two grandfathered. The issue came up that Mr. G's moved, and it's my understanding now he's actually moved into Gulf County. Can anybody confirm that?
According to his Facebook page, he has a building in Fort St. Joe that he is renovating.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. So his business is in fact moved at this point. If he
Correct.
moved.
His conversation with him was that we were having this meeting on the 22nd, and if he wished to pursue that, he needed to come. And so by his absence, we'll assume that the Facebook page is correct.
Okay, being that there's only one other business that's grandfathered, do y'all feel like there's any need to change the ordinance?
I don't think so.
I don't either. Then put it back on the agenda for a first reading. The second item on the agenda is LED lights. It says on Highway 98, we're really talking about citywide. Mel, you want to just address that for Duke Energy?
Yes, sir. Duke Energy came into the city and had a proposal to replace all of our street lights with LED lighting. Cognizant of the fact that we do have turtle issues, of course, close to 98. So there's certain things they can do to help with that, and that they can either get less lumens to lights at that neck of the woods. They can shield it, whatever needs to be done. We do have a lot of areas around the city who is somewhat dark that we really do need a little brighter lights, but next to 98, of course, is not one of them. We understand that there has been some correspondence between some citizens and the board that this may or may not be a good idea, but it's something that if you wish to pursue it, I can get more information from Duke Energy about means by which they can take care of our turtle issues. I did speak with Barbara Ills about it on the telephone, and I assured her that before we did anything finally, that we would make sure that she and her group would get to look at this to make sure they were comfortable with what was going to be proposed.
Okay, as a little background, we actually pay Duke Energy for a lease fee for those lights,
For the lights and the poles, yes, sir.
and then we pay them for energy consumption by those lights.
Right.
So if we converted to a 10 times more efficient LED light, our utility bill would go down, but it's my understanding they want us to charge us an additional $150 a month
Correct.
to change them out. I guess that would go into the lease part of it.
Right. Exactly.
So we're talking less than $2,000 a year to convert every street light in the city to LED.
Correct. And part of the issue is that with the amber lighting we do now have, there's a problem with ballast that tends to go out, and you can see these lights cycle on and off, and that's due to that ballast. And of course, with LED lighting, that wouldn't be a problem. You'd never have that problem again. They're either on or they're off.
Bill, I know you have some input about this.
Well, I read what Connie had said, and then I just went out and kind of looked. There was an article I passed, I think all of y'all, that in Oregon, Corvallis, was it? Anyway, they have a problem with it. They've done a very large installation in the city. Sounded good, but they're finding that the light's kind of brighter than they want in some cases. Obviously, they have apartments that were close on the lights, which we don't have, but the lights were bright enough they were giving people issues there. Plus, there was an indication that they're not necessarily bird and fish friendly, which caught my eye because we are bird and fish friendly here, more especially fish friendly. Plus plus turtles. So I'm concerned, I think we need more information about it. The other thing is, I was driving in tonight, and I was looking and thinking about our city. I was looking at the brochure that Duke had put out, parking lots and so forth, differences in lighting and so forth. Our lights are spread out fairly wide here in the city. And the indication in reading the brochure is that the LED light is more directional than the lights we have. So our lights will diffuse out some LEDs going down. If you look around, we really have dark spots in between our lights anyway. And if we go to something that's more directional, is that going to give us even darker dark spots in these areas? Because we don't have this large amount of lights. So I think there's some concerns from my end. I'd like to know a little bit more about the situation, more especially, is it going to be a problem if you live too close to light? Is it going to be a problem for our fish and our turtles and really what they can do?
Okay. Other comments about that?
No, I agree. That's when I read, what, I can't remember who sent it, but it raises concerns, and before we just vote something in, I think more information, we need more information on that.
I did make a phone call today to Duke Energy. There were 3 of them that came by the office. I tried calling all 3, but 2 days before a holiday, I don't think they were in the office. So I'll try again after the holiday and see if I can get some more information that you've got for your concerns.
Okay, any comment from the floor? Yeah.
I published this last weekend in my newspaper, a press release released in June of this year from the American Medical Association, cautioning people about the dangers of it, and they said you need to take extreme care to make sure if you do switch to LED that it is a particular type and wattage, because it interferes with sleep, it causes other health problems in humans, and it causes problems with fish, birds, and wildlife. But the human factor is one that definitely needs to be looked into. And that's readily available from the American Medical Association. They put that out because so many cities were considering going to it because of the cost savings. They said you need to be very careful. So please keep that in mind.
I also read the medical information about that, but oddly, I've changed to LED lighting in my home throughout. You can get different tones. I know what they're talking about is a 5,000, which is like a daylight, which is a lot brighter. As far as me and an old person, I'd rather see brighter lights on the street corner so I can see where to turn than what we've got. We already have shades installed on our lights on 98, so they don't shine toward the ocean. But I don't know how much directional they are. A lot of LEDs are very directional. Same time, we can get LED light bulbs now that are 360 degrees, just like they've always been. So I don't know, let's do a little bit more research before we bring this to the table. I'd like to know exactly what brightness factor. If it's a 5,000, that's very much a daylight color. And I think they say we're at 2,300 now.
Correct.
You can actually get an LED that's not 5,000 color. Something that's similar to what we have and still enjoy the benefits of LED.
Right, and you can see by the pictures on the screen that if you put the amber lighting right next to the LED lighting, there is quite a big difference to the eye, even though the amount of lumens that are produced are the same.
Okay. Any other comment about that? So we're going to continue conversation about this after we talk to Duke a little bit more about this. Ms. Albert was going to talk to us about murals at Parker Park. Does anybody have an update on that?
I don't, except that she did say that if you wanted to wait until the next meeting of which she's able to attend, then that'd be fine.
Okay, so the public will know what we're talking about. We're talking about putting the very stark contrast we have at the restroom over at the Parker Park, the new park. We're trying to get a local artist to paint some beach murals on the restroom. The Gulf to Bay Highway, Mel.
Yes, sir. We had a visit from some DOT gentlemen to update us on the Gulf to Bay Highway. You may have heard about the Gulf to Bay Highway. You may have also heard about the Gulf Coast Parkway. To a certain degree, they're somewhat different projects completely, except that Gulf to Bay is, you might say, the first leg of that whole project. If you were to go to the map after that page there, that shows you where the Gulf to Bay Highway is or will be. It will initiate on the east side where those curves are that Windmark put in when they routed 98 around their development. Exactly. And then we'll go just north of Bubba Harmon's place when it gets to 386. And then we'll continue north and west until it comes out very near the Crooked Island Road area. So that will be a project that would be borne entirely by the state. There would be no Mexico Beach participation involved at all, in part because it's not in our city limits anyway. The negative of that, if you want to call it a negative, is that the current 98 through town is requested that we take over ownership of. That means when it needs to be repaid, it's on our nickel and on our dime. However, keep in mind that 98 through town is going to be redone by the state, resurfaced, remilled in about a year, maybe a year and a half. So that will be a brand new road at that time. If we do take ownership of what is currently 98, we can keep heavy truck traffic off of it completely, which will definitely allow the useful life to be increased. We could allow golf carts on 98 if that would be the desire of the council. You know, a lot of people do want to take their carts to the beach, and right now they have to park it on the north side of the highway and walk across. Unless, of course, they have a low-speed vehicle that some people do have. Time frame on this project is approximately 5 to 6 years from now. At this point, they do not have the funding, but they're almost 90% done with the plans. They do anticipate getting funding in time for this project. But this will not be one of those federally funded pass-through type things. It'll be done by the state. If you look at the next map, if there is one, anyway, that's the Gulf Coast Parkway. What they've said is that Gulf to Bay is the first leg of the whole project. And just north and east of where it comes out on Crooked Island Road, it will continue further north and will eventually hit 231. At this point, they have no idea where on 231 that is going to be. Bay County has yet to make a decision in conjunction with DOT to figure all that stuff out yet. That project is more like 10 years out before they get to that. So it's going to be quite some time before they get there, but you have to start somewhere. Your next question is, well, if we are responsible for that repaving, how much is it going to cost? So I asked DOT to provide to us how much they are spending in the next milling and repaving project in about a year, year and a half. And they said right at $1 million. And that's a right smart piece of change that I know Mexico Beach does not have. So they indicated that small communities such as us would qualify for some grants. They did mention 3 grants, which I didn't provide details to you here because it was not pertinent at the time. But we could apply for those grants to kind of help partially fund that whole project. If you consider the fact that we could put $50,000 a year every year for 20 years, then there's your $1 million. Because it may be 20 years before we have to repave it at this point, if we keep all the heavy truck traffic off. Also, the negatives might be some of the people who have stores might say that they're losing traffic through town. But also, that's another opportunity, if this does go through, that there might be some commercial opportunities on this rerouting of the area. So it's a positive and a negative. If we are to sign on this, they of course would request that we pass a resolution in support of the project. So at this point, any questions?
Did they provide a draft resolution? They were going to give us one that Gulf County signed.
They gave us that one just as an example. So they've already done one that is one paragraph that's got Mexico Beach language in there. I told them that at the proper time, if we move forward, I'll tailor that up and let them look at it and make sure it complies what they needed to say before we pass it.
And this resolution is only a resolution in support of the project overall?
Correct. And then we would
No
take it
commitment on
over.
our part financially?
Right.
And they would take over 98?
And we take over 98 of when this all happens. In other words, when the Gulf to Bay is complete, then current 98 becomes ours.
As a resolution, would that actually force us to do that, or would we really have to make that decision, legally later down the line?
We need to make it now, because that's part of our support. If we choose not to do that, then Bay County said they would step in and own 98. I'm not so sure we want them to own 98 through town, or whatever it might be called in the future. That way we will never control it again.
That's not good.
So if you have questions, I can get back with them and answer them, so we can consider this again.
Do we have a time frame on the resolution?
They suggested sometime perhaps in January. That's when others might be following suit. So we've got some time to think about it and ask more questions.
Okay, I've been on about this for some time. I really don't see any downside in owning 98 and being a city street, personally. This is going to become essentially a backleach road for us, and another commercial avenue, and also an evacuation route, and for hurricanes. I've talked to a couple of people in Bay County, in Gulf County, and they couldn't see any negative side to it for their benefit as well. Just comments. I've had time to think about it before the other council members.
So in the meantime, as you get questions, as you talk to your constituents, let me know when I can get answers for you.
Okay. Under miscellaneous, we've had a couple of meetings with Farmdale, the development on the west edge of the city. We met with their attorneys, their engineer twice, and we met with a developer this week. Actually, late last week. No, this week. And they are ready to get their development order from Bay County. That development is outside of Mexico Beach. But some of the things that we have talked to them about are the support aspects of the city for their development. Even though they're part of the county, our interlocal agreements would require us to provide police support, fire support, EMS support to that development, a development of 64 homes. At this time, the development of 64 homes is all they're looking at doing. And they have done 2 or 3 years of work, apparently, to make that happen. Our primary consideration, or one of my primary considerations, is the amount of sewer allocation that we have. We have currently 383,000 gallons of sewer allocation a day. We have the capacity for much more than that in the pipe to pump it away from Mexico Beach back to Bay County to be treated. But we have an allocation from the county of how much sewer we can put into the big pot, and that's at 383. For some year and a half now, we've talked to them about increasing that allocation by 150,000 gallons. And that's what we're talking to this developer about. Even though 9 months out of the year, we don't use our allocation, this last year, this last summer, the 3 months during the summer, we used more than our allocation, which is not permissible under our agreement with the county. It's not a year average, it is a monthly rolling average of how much product can go to the treatment plant. So those are the kind of details that we're talking about with the developer, whether or not we can meet their needs. They need 16,000 gallons a day for their development. We currently have that much, but it puts us above our threshold of 80%. That is part of our deal with the county. A running average of 80%. We're at like 87%. So it's most important because that additional capacity for us is about $100,000, I'm sorry, $77,000 to get that additional capacity. What's the downside? Well, the upside of the development is the developer is going to have to pay us impact fees for water and sewer for all of their homes, whether they're annexed into the city or not. It's irrelevant. They're in our service area. So the money that we collect from that can certainly offset the value of any future sewer allocation, and we'll have more customers on the system and more capacity for future development anywhere, primarily west of the city. Or if, for example, the Corey PUD gets developed, they'll need a sewer allocation and water allocation over there as well. So it's even though they're only concerned about getting their 64 houses built in their subdivision that's called Farmdale, how they attach to us physically, how we supply them, and if we want to supply them, because it does take a vote of this council to approve giving them the water and sewer that they need in that subdivision. And the county's made it pretty clear to them that they do need to come through Mexico Beach and get their water and sewer from Mexico Beach. But there's a lot of fine details that have to go in there, and Pebble Ridge is still working on the actual, some of the technical aspects, and now we'll be talking with our attorney based on some of the last offers they gave us as an incentive to help them get their development order and get underway with the project. I don't have a bottom line type presentation to give you. That's just where our talks are right now. But their time frame is short, and we will have to make a decision in the next couple of months once we get all of the footwork, legwork done. But right now, I was very much, I was much more optimistic after our meeting this week than I was the previous meeting, because they certainly want to work with us and want to be part of us in the future. And I'm very happy about that. Any questions, general questions about that? I don't have a lot of real strong specifics that I can give you. Yes, ma'am.
You said that this was basically all that they were looking at for right now?
Yes.
The houses, of course, they've got the rest of the property to do. Did they give any indication of what and when they were thinking of that?
Yes. First of all, there are 220 acres down there. There's a tremendous amount of it that is not going to be able to be developed. It is wetlands, and all of their permits that they are talking about right now from the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Protection, all the groups that are involved with the permitting process, they're requiring them to save large buffer areas within that. They have a general PUD that they've talked about, which would add a small section of condominiums, and then a 50,000 square foot commercial area that fronts 98. But the time frame for that is so far down the road that they're not even considering it in their planning right now. It ties in with Beach to Bay, and where that comes out and how all that works. It's that far down the road. They don't have any plans on the board at all for any specific development. So it's down the road.
I have something, Your Honor. Late this afternoon, you were given plans for City Hall. Right there it is. because we've already awarded the bid, the next procedure we have to follow is to get the contract itself approved by our city council. And of course, you can't approve a contract unless you know what the amount is. He also brought in his amount. Recall that the previous preliminary bid was 414, 416, somewhere in that range. And also, we were talking about site prep for up to $180,000, which kind of put chills on our spines a little bit. But now that they have reviewed what needs to be done for site prep and the building of the complex itself, the total amount is $462,360. And that includes the site prep. So without question, we can finally afford City Hall. So what we will do, we will go ahead and proceed with getting the contract drawn up, and we'll have the city council at their meeting in a couple of weeks, have a special meeting before the workshop, and we'll get that approved and pushed on down the road. Duke Energy is supposed to move the poles out of the way sometime next week, and then that means the following week we'll be meeting December the 6th, they will start that week. So we're just a couple of weeks away from the beginning of City Hall being started, so that's good news indeed.
That's tremendous news. That's actually within the value of the insurance proceeds that we have left from the settlement on the original Parker House. So that's really tremendous news, and we thank F&B for sharpening their pencils and working with us on such a good turnkey deal for the City Hall. So nice. It's still 3,300 square feet.
32.
So it's going to be a really nice commercial building, and it's a turnkey deal. So that's fantastic. It's just fantastic. Other comments from the table? Yes, sir.
Earlier today, we were talking about the sewer rehab project that's coming up. And I was positive that we had already done this, but it turns out that we had not. But on the next meeting, I'm gonna have on the agenda and ask the council for a formal award of the sewer rehab project to the company that come in with the lowest bid. We have to get that signed and sent back to them. We were hoping to mobilize and get the project started December 5th, but that's not going to happen. We're going to have, I don't know, when was the next one, the 6th? The 6th will be our next meeting. And I'll have all that ready for you guys to look at. And I know I guess it was informally, we talked about who got the bid, but I guess we never actually made the formal announcement.
We actually had to fund it. We had to put some more money in that account before we awarded the contract.
So that will be
That's
on
already
y'all's plates the 6th. The other thing, the dredge hauling, we did get a price. I spoke with Mr. Guilford about hauling the dredge over there and getting it back. I also spoke with another gentleman out of St. Joe to haul the dredge. Two completely different worlds as far as price goes. The one in St. Joe was about $25,000 to haul it over there and haul it back. Mr. Guilford is much less than that, but because of the cost of it, we need to go through the bid process. And that's gonna, what is it, a 2-week bid process?
Probably closer to 3, but.
So,
But we can still get it in by the end of December.
yes, sir. So just making y'all aware of that, because we were also planning on hauling it over on December the 5th. But we discussed it this morning, and I absolutely don't believe anybody else is gonna give us a price, but it's the rules we gotta play by, I was told.
It's correct.
So
It's over $8,000.
we'll bid it out, and after all that's done, we'll get it going.
Okay. When is the bid actually going to go out, the bid document?
I haven't even made it yet.
Hadn't made it yet. But we need to hustle up then.
Yep.
Okay.
That is all I have.
So if that goes out for bid, I forgot, how long will it take the bid process?
3 weeks.
3 weeks, thank you.
But this is just towing.
Yes, sir.
It's a towing bid is all it is.
Is insurance the same for both bidders? liability insurance. I mean, there's a big difference in those.
Well, one's an actual towboat, the other one's a charter boat, so I would think no. They wouldn't be the same.
Something to remember.
Okay. Any other miscellaneous from the table? Any miscellaneous from the floor? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, I was at the office, my wife called, she had planned on joining the meeting tonight and was under the weather, asked if I could come out, so I got out here as quickly as I could, but I noticed at 6:02 you had already made it to LED lights on your agenda. So I was just going to ask before you adjourned, Mayor, with regards to ordinance 660, did the council take any action tonight with regards to that? I missed the discussion on that.
The food trailer?
Yes, sir.
We're going to leave it exactly like it was. The other vendor left town,
It's not coming back.
so it's irrelevant. So yours is still grandfathered in?
So is there going to be a first reading scheduled?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be, the first reading is the first meeting in December.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any others? Yes, sir.
Good evening.
I have a comment to make about the November 9th meeting where the ordinance 651 was passed. And I'm going to read a statement, at which time, when I'm concluded, I'll give a copy to the clerk so that the record can properly reflect what I'm stating here. I don't normally do it this way, but for tonight's meeting, I want to make sure that the records reflect properly. I, Al Cathy, concerned citizen and customer of the Mexico Beach Utility Services, personally appearing before the Mexico Beach City Council today, November 22nd, 2016, do hereby make a formal protest by way of this official complaint, challenging the notification and procedures used in adopting ordinance number 651. The following facts are provided to support my complaint. The November Mexico Beach water bill contained a notice of public hearing to be held on November 9th, 2016 at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time during the regular meeting of the City of Mexico Beach City Council to allow public discussion on ordinance number 651. The published agenda for the November 9th meeting did not list nor reference any such public hearing. Also during the November 9th meeting, neither the mayor chairman, any council member, nor the city administrator made any verbal reference or statement that a public hearing was being held. In fact, the words public hearing were never spoken at that meeting. The Cambridge Business English Dictionary defines public hearing for government entities and governing bodies as the following: an official meeting where members of the public hear the facts about a planned road, building, utility rates, land development changes, etc., and give their opinions about it. The ratification of ordinance number 651 on November 9th was done without any semblance of a public hearing, no written, no verbal reference to an official meeting, no facts or documentation presented to the public to show justification for increased water and sewer rates and the unprecedented charges to customers for inactive or disconnected service. Such actions and lack of proper procedures by the City Council resulting in the adoption of Ordinance 651 has denied the public and their customers due process. Based on these facts, I hereby request that Ordinance number 651 be rescinded until such time that a proper public hearing is held and full disclosure from the city demonstrates the need for such increases and policy changes. I also conclude that the customers of the City of the Mexico Beach Water and Sewer Services are under no obligation to pay these increased rates or charges, void repercussions or harm from the city until due process has taken place. Respectfully submitted, Al Cathy. And before sitting down, I just simply ask, based on what you just heard, is there anyone that contests those facts?
I did not conduct a public hearing. I conducted a second reading of an ordinance.
But you noticed,
But I did not conduct a public hearing, granted.
but we were noticed that one would be held. It was on the water bill. Notice of public hearing. And we have been denied due process to know why we're being charged.
I don't have any other comment at this time.
Thank you.
Any other comment from the floor? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Take it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.